It's easy to talk about what you're going to do. It's easy to tell people your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations. But here's the thing, words are just that, words. They don't build businesses, they don't achieve greatness, and they certainly don't leave a lasting impression. It's action that makes the difference. When you focus on action, you shift your energy from convincing others of your potential to proving it through results. Think about this: if someone tells you they're a great leader, but you never see them inspire a team, how convinced are you? On the other hand, when you see someone quietly step up, guide a group through challenges, and achieve a remarkable outcome, you don't need their words to believe in their leadership. The evidence is in the results. Life rewards those who do, not those who talk. Imagine you're working on a big idea, a vision that excites you. You could tell everyone about it, explain every detail, share how it's going to change the world. But here's the catch: the more you talk about it, the less time and energy you have to make it happen. Worse, talking can sometimes create a false sense of accomplishment. You feel good about the idea because others seem impressed, but nothing has been built, nothing has been delivered. Now let's flip the script. Instead of talking, you act. You take that idea and work on it in silence. You build, improve, and refine. And when the time comes, when the results are ready to be seen, you let your work speak for itself. At that moment, there's no need to explain or convince. Your results are undeniable, and they carry far more weight than words ever could. But there's another layer to this. When you choose action over words, you develop a kind of quiet confidence. You know you're doing the work, and that knowledge is powerful. It fuels your drive and strengthens your resolve. You're no longer seeking validation from others because you're too focused on achieving your goals. And when you're truly focused, you start to notice something interesting. The less you talk about what you're doing, the more others begin to notice your progress. They see the changes, the growth, the results, and they're drawn to it. This approach isn't just about impressing others, it's about holding yourself accountable. When you tell people what you're going to do, you might feel a pressure to live up to those words, but that pressure often comes from a place of external validation. When you focus on action, the accountability shifts inward. It becomes about proving to yourself that you can achieve what you set out to do. That's a far more powerful motivator than the fleeting approval of others. There's also a certain discipline in letting your actions speak. It requires patience, focus, and a willingness to stay quiet when the urge to share feels overwhelming. But that discipline pays off. It keeps you grounded and reminds you that success is built through effort, not applause. In the end, actions speak louder than words because they leave no room for doubt. Words can be questioned, intentions can be misinterpreted, but results are clear and undeniable. They show what you're capable of, not just what you say you'll do. And when your results are strong enough, they don't just speak, they inspire. They encourage others to act, to strive, and to achieve. So the next time you feel the urge to tell people what you're doing, pause. Ask yourself if your words are necessary or if your actions can speak for themselves. And when you let your work do the talking, you'll find that the world listens more intently than it ever would to your words. Because in the end, people remember what you've done, not what you said you'd do. Imagine walking into a room and meeting someone who doesn't immediately tell you their entire life story. They're not trying to impress you with a list of accomplishments, and they're not in a rush to explain who they are or what they do. Instead, they carry themselves with quiet confidence, leaving you intrigued. You find yourself leaning in, wondering, who is this person? What's their story? That's the power of mystery. Mystery is magnetic. When you don't immediately reveal everything about yourself, you create a sense of curiosity. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. It's human nature. We want to connect the dots, to uncover what's hidden, to solve the puzzle. And when you allow yourself to be a little enigmatic, you give others the space to become curious about you. Too often we feel pressured to announce ourselves to the world. We think if they don't know who I am or what I've accomplished, they won't take me seriously, but the truth is, the more you say up front, the more you dilute the power of your presence. There's no need to rush into explanations. Confidence isn't about telling everyone what you've done, it's about knowing you don't have to. When you hold back, you invite curiosity. Imagine telling someone you're working on a project without going into detail. They're likely to ask follow-up questions. They want to know more to fill in the gaps. This dynamic shifts the energy of the conversation. Instead of you trying to prove yourself, the other person becomes invested in discovering more about you. And when they're curious, they're engaged. They're interested not because you demanded their attention, but because you earned it. Now, let's be clear, mystery doesn't mean being secretive or evasive. It's not about withholding information to manipulate people or play games. It's about understanding the value of pacing, revealing just enough to spark interest while letting your actions and results speak for themselves. When people see your work, your character, and your results, they'll naturally want to know more. And that's when your story has the most impact, because it's told in the context of what you've accomplished. Think about some of the most fascinating people you've met. Chances are, they didn't walk into the room and announce their resume. They didn't list all their achievements or boast about their talents. Instead, they carried themselves in a way that made you want to know more. Maybe it was the way they listened intently, the way they spoke with purpose, or the way they approached challenges with quiet determination. Whatever it was, their mystery drew you in. This approach is not just about social interactions, it applies to business, relationships, and personal branding. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, being the person who doesn't overshare can make you stand out. It shows self-assurance. It shows that you trust your work to speak louder than your words, and it shows that you don't need immediate validation from others because you're secure in your path. When you create mystery, you also give yourself breathing room. If you tell everyone what you're working on, you open the door to unsolicited opinions, doubts, and distractions. But when you keep your plans to yourself, you protect your focus. You can build, create, and grow without interference. And when the results are ready to be seen, they'll have a much greater impact because they'll come as a pleasant surprise. Mystery is powerful because it's rare. In a time when oversharing is the norm, choosing to let your work and character speak for themselves is a refreshing change. It sets you apart and makes people take notice. When you're deliberate about what you share and when you share it, you gain control over your narrative. You ensure that your story is told on your terms and in the most impactful way. So the next time you're tempted to explain yourself, to tell people what you do, or to prove your worth through words, pause. Consider the power of leaving a little unsaid. Let your presence, your results, and your character create curiosity. And when the time comes to share your story, you'll find that people are already leaning in, ready to listen. Imagine walking into a room full of people you've never met before. You could introduce yourself by listing all your achievements, outlining your career, and explaining your plans for the future. Or you could simply be present. Let the conversation flow and allow your actions, character, and reputation to unfold naturally. Which one do you think leaves a more lasting impression? The truth is, the world is full of talkers, people who are eager to announce their potential, share their dreams, or detail their goals. But it's rare to meet someone who doesn't need to say a word because their work speaks for itself. When your work speaks for you, it carries a kind of authenticity that no explanation can replicate. People are not impressed by what you claim you're going to do. They're impressed by what you've actually done. This is why your focus should always remain on creating, building, and achieving, not on broadcasting your intentions. There's an unspoken power in results. A completed project, a well-executed idea, or a tangible outcome says more about your abilities than any conversation ever could. Letting your work speak for itself also shifts the focus from you to the impact of what you do. It's not about convincing people that you're skilled, hardworking, or successful. It's about showing them the value you bring to the table. When someone sees the results of your dedication, whether it's a thriving business, a beautiful piece of art, or a solution to a complex problem, they're not just impressed by your capability. They're inspired by your example. This approach also builds credibility. When you consistently deliver results, people begin to trust your abilities without needing reassurance. They know you're reliable because they've seen the evidence. Over time, this trust compounds. You become the kind of person others want to work with, support, and recommend, not because of what you said, but because of what you've proven. There's another advantage to letting your work speak for itself. It frees you from the need to seek validation. When you're focused on doing great work, you're not preoccupied with gaining approval or recognition. You're driven by a sense of purpose and pride in what you do, not by the desire to impress others. And ironically, it's this quiet confidence that often attracts the most attention. The world notices results. It notices excellence. It notices the person who shows up, works hard, and delivers. But the moment you start over-explaining, you risk diluting the power of what you've achieved. Instead of trying to tell people how great you are, allow them to discover it for themselves. Let them see the fruits of your labor, the depth of your commitment, and the quality of your work. And when they do, you won't need to say a word. Your work will have already spoken volumes. Focus on what you can build, create, and contribute. Let that be your voice. Let that be your legacy. Because at the end of the day, actions don't just speak louder than words. They're the only language the world truly listens to. It's easy to speak about what you want to achieve. It costs nothing to tell others about your ambitions, your plans, or the goals you set for yourself. But words, as powerful as they can be in some situations, lose their weight when they aren't followed by action. You see, the world is full of talkers, people who paint grand visions with their words but never bring them to life. The marketplace, the workplace, and life in general don't reward what you say you'll do. They reward what you actually accomplish. When we rely too heavily on words to define who we are or what we plan to do, we risk creating a false sense of achievement. Talking about a goal can sometimes trick your brain into feeling like you've made progress when, in reality, nothing tangible has been done. It's like announcing to the world that you're going to run a marathon while still sitting on the couch. The announcement might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't move you an inch closer to crossing that finish line. The truth is, results are what people respect and admire. Results don't need an introduction or a backstory. They stand on their own. Imagine two people walk into a room. One talks endlessly about how they're going to build a successful business, while the other says nothing but hands you a report showing millions in annual revenue. Who are you going to believe? The answer is obvious. Results don't just speak, they shout. What makes results so powerful is that they are undeniable. Words can be exaggerated and intentions can be misunderstood, but results are black and white. They reflect the work you've put in, the discipline you've maintained, and the challenges you've overcome. Results are proof that you don't just dream, you act. They show that you've taken the time to roll up your sleeves, get to work, and deliver something of value. Now, does this mean you should never talk about your goals? Not necessarily. But there's a fine line between sharing your vision and using your words as a substitute for action. When you tell someone, I'm going to do this or I'm working on that, you've made a promise, whether you realize it or not. And promises once made create expectations. If you don't deliver, those words lose their credibility. Say enough unfulfilled promises and people stop listening altogether. On the other hand, when you prioritize action over talk, you earn trust and respect. People take notice of those who produce results without the need for constant explanation. There's a quiet power in letting your achievements do the talking. It's not about being silent or secretive, it's about knowing that true credibility comes from what you've done, not what you've said you'll do. Focusing on results also keeps you grounded. It forces you to confront the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It's easy to say, I'll be successful, but it's much harder to put in the hours, make sacrifices, and persevere through setbacks. Results require effort, consistency, and patience. They demand that you back up your words with work. And here's something else to consider when you focus on delivering results. You're not just building credibility with others, you're building trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a goal, no matter how small, you reinforce your belief in your own abilities. That self-trust is invaluable. It's what gives you the confidence to set bigger goals and tackle greater challenges. The world doesn't need more promises. It needs proof. Proof that you're willing to put in the effort, face the obstacles, and deliver something of value. So the next time you feel the urge to announce your plans, ask yourself this: wouldn't it be better to let your results speak for you? After all, actions are the true measure of commitment. Words might be cheap, but results are priceless. Too often we fall into the trap of trying to justify ourselves to others. We want people to understand our vision, our goals, and our ambitions. We explain what we're working on, why it matters, and how it's going to change everything. But in doing so, we can lose sight of what really matters: the process itself. The time and energy spent justifying could have been invested in doing the work. Focusing on the process means shifting your attention from talking about what you're going to do to actually doing it. There's something powerful about being so engrossed in the work that you don't have time to explain yourself. People often want validation, reassurance that their path is the right one, and they seek it from others. But here's the truth: the world doesn't owe you approval. It only rewards results, and those results come from staying committed to the process. The process isn't glamorous. It's not what you post about on social media or talk about at dinner parties. The process is the long hours, the failures, the revisions, and the lessons learned along the way. It's the part of success that nobody sees, but that everyone feels in the final product. The process demands patience, discipline, and humility. It's where the real growth happens, not in the applause at the end, but in the struggle to get there. When you focus on the process, you stay grounded in reality. You begin to understand that success isn't a single moment or event, it's the accumulation of small, consistent efforts over time. Every step you take, no matter how small, is progress. It might not be visible to the world yet, but it's there, building a foundation for something bigger. By immersing yourself in the work, you develop skills, refine your ideas, and discover new opportunities that you couldn't have anticipated if you were too busy justifying yourself to others. Another benefit of focusing on the process is that it shields you from distractions. When you're constantly trying to explain yourself, you're opening yourself up to criticism, doubt, and even unnecessary advice from others. Some of that feedback may be useful, but much of it can derail your focus and sow seeds of insecurity. When you prioritize the process, you learn to tune out the noise and trust yourself. You become less concerned with what people think and more committed to the work at hand. People who focus on justifying themselves often fall into the trap of seeking quick wins or shortcuts. They want something to show off, a way to prove that they're on the right track. But shortcuts rarely lead to meaningful success. True success is built on a foundation of hard work, persistence, and learning. It comes from staying in the game long enough to figure out what works and what doesn't. And that only happens when you're committed to the process. There's also an element of freedom in focusing on the process. When you let go of the need to explain or prove yourself, you release the pressure of external expectations. You're no longer working to impress others or gain their approval. Instead, you're working because you believe in what you're doing. That belief becomes your driving force, and it sustains you through challenges and setbacks. People will always have opinions, Some will doubt you, others will question your methods, and a few might even dismiss your efforts entirely. But none of that matters when you're focused on the process. Your work will eventually speak for itself. And when it does, it won't need a lengthy explanation. People will see the results and understand the journey you took to get there. The process is where transformation happens. It's where ideas turn into reality, where skills are honed, and where dreams are built. It's not always easy, and it's rarely quick, but it's always worth it. So stop worrying about how to justify what you're doing and start doing it. Let your work be your voice and let your results tell your story. When it comes to making a lasting impression, inspiration always triumphs over explanation. Think about the people who have left an indelible mark on you. Chances are it wasn't because they sat you down and told you how great they were. Instead, it was what they showed you through their actions, achievements, and how they lived their lives. That's the power of inspiration. It doesn't need to be stated, it needs to be felt. When you try to explain yourself to others what you do, what you're building, what your plans are, you risk diluting the magic of your journey. Explanation often comes across as justification, as if you're seeking approval or validation. But here's the truth: true confidence doesn't seek validation. It doesn't beg to be acknowledged. It simply exists, radiating quietly and unmistakably. And that quiet confidence is what inspires others. Inspiration is born from authenticity. When you focus on living your purpose, doing your work, and growing every day, people naturally take notice. You don't need to tell them about your vision. They'll see it in the way you carry yourself, the quality of your work, and the passion in your actions. This kind of influence is far more powerful than any explanation could ever be. Why? Because inspiration connects on an emotional level. It stirs something inside people. It makes them think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. On the other hand, explanations often fall flat because they operate on a surface level. They tell but don't show. They inform but don't move. Imagine telling someone, I'm starting a business that will revolutionize the industry. It might sound impressive for a moment, but it's just words. Now imagine showing them a business you've built, one that's thriving, innovating, and solving real problems. They don't just hear about your success, they see it, feel it, and believe it. That's inspiration in action. Inspiration also leaves a deeper legacy. When you inspire someone, you plant a seed in their mind. That seed grows into ideas, motivation, and actions of their own. You've given them something far more valuable than an explanation of your accomplishments. You've given them the belief that they, too, can achieve something meaningful. To live in a way that inspires others requires focus and patience. It means prioritizing your work and your growth over your need to be understood immediately. It means trusting that your results will speak louder than your words ever could. It's about having the discipline to let your actions unfold and the humility to let others interpret them in their own time. When someone finally asks, how did you do it? That's your opportunity to share your journey, not to boast, but to encourage. You've earned the right to tell your story because you've lived it first. And when you speak from a place of genuine experience and hard-earned wisdom, your words carry weight. They don't just explain, they inspire.